Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. It is a very special Victory Monday. The Commanders won 26-6 versus the Dallas Cowboys yesterday, and the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. But we are rejoined by former Washington wide receiver, Mr. Anthony Armstrong of the Believe Commanders podcast. Thank you for joining us on this very cold Monday night, but it feels warm, doesn't it?
It is warm. At least I heated up the office before I came in here. Turned my little space heater on and got my new shirt on, long sleeve, so set the standard. So I got that out now. But yes, it's good, man. Victory Monday. Those are always good. Those are always special.
Yeah, that fireplace is fueled by Cowboys tears, and I absolutely love it, being 26-6. That was an absolute bludgeoning. I mean, the Dak Prescott's numbers, 14 of 37, 128 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Absolutely masterful job by Jack Del Rio and this defensive team. They really stepped up to the plate with a lot of guys missing. But, Anthony, we got to jump over to the other side of football. Sam Howells got his first start and first win, first pass of his NFL career win for a touchdown. What was your reaction to Sam Howell's performance yesterday? What kind of gauging where you're at? Do you think that he kind of showed what he could do in the future?
Man, Sam Howell went out there and did what you expected him to do. Just go out there, have fun, play loose, and let that thing fly. And I'm glad he did, because that's what was missing, from the offense, just being able to throw it deep. And there's one thing about throwing it deep. Sometimes you just have to do it just to show them that you will. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He has the arm strength to do it, and he was able to, put the ball downfield and make some plays. And it was very smart of him to find 17 early and often, because that guy's gonna help you get into a rhythm, and it's gonna help you put the ball in the end zone. So he did a good job. I think there's one side where you're like, oh man, this is the guy. This is for the future, the next 10 years. He's the guy. But then the other side, you kind of got to be like, okay, hold on, hey, let's pump the brakes a little bit. But it was a good performance. It was a good performance for him, and that's a great start. And especially with the Washington organization. Beating Dallas is always a good thing to do, right? If you beat Dallas, people are going to think highly of you, and they're going to definitely, cheer for you. So he's off to a good start. 1-0. He don't have to play another game for 8 months, so he get to turn this to a victory off season.
Absolutely, yeah. He was 11 of 19, 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, obviously 5 rushes for 35 yards, and 1 touchdown. His 60-yard pass to Terry McLaurin is the longest pass that Washington has had by a quarterback since 2015.
He also had that dime to Jahan, drop. That one was placed beautifully as well.
Yeah, that man can throw the ball around. I mean, they were talking about it on the national broadcast, was talking about how he can spin it. He can throw that thing.
Yeah.
But then they were also saying, Greg Olsen was saying, he's like, it kind of reminds him of Taylor Heineke, the way he's able to maneuver around the pocket and kind of make things happen. And you got the big arm of Carson Wentz that he has, and then you've got the savvy and the, little scrappiness, if you will, of Taylor Heineke, and you got a little mesh.
Yeah, it's almost like they breeded them together, had a child, and that quarterback was Sam Howell.
And raised
I don't
him
know
as
if that's
vegetarian.
possible, but
we need to talk to them. Or no, he just doesn't eat red meat. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, that is right. I remember they were talking about that he doesn't eat red meat, and then that was like way back in training camp. And nobody. That might have been the reason they didn't play him. They're like,
that's what I said. I said, look, he'd be a franchise quarterback if he ate red meat. I did say that I would send him a porterhouse steak if he won, so I do owe him that.
Yeah, Kyle eats a lot of meat. Yeah,
he's just gonna throw it in the trash. So it's probably just gonna waste your money.
It's all right. I'll put sprinkles on it. Put in his name.
Just say it's chicken, and it'll be like, oh, maybe.
He did have
never
Buffalo
seen chicken
Wild
before,
Wings.
apparently.
Space chicken.
So, being that you've been in the locker room before, obviously, going back to last week against the Browns, obviously, for whatever reason, they just seemed to come out flat, and they just didn't really seem like they were all the way there last week. And then obviously they come out this week against Dallas. It's like a complete 180. They're all ready to go. They're fired up. What do you think the reason is that they would come out flat like last week in a play in the all season on the line game, and then this week kind of have that energy when there's not really a lot to play for, but like I said, just being in the locker room, what would be your experience with that?
I mean, honestly, I think you just have to point to the guy under center. I mean, no disrespect to Carson, but making that switch probably wasn't the most favorable thing in the locker room. That'd be my feeling, right? It's just kind of like, all right, okay, whatever you say, coach. Like, you're not gonna undermine the coach. It's not, I don't think very many guys on that team would really do that. Even though I was a little surprised to hear them, get in the media and talk to the play caller about that type of stuff.
That was crazy, wasn't it?
That was a little off the wall, but then it was also kind of like something that needed to be said. Yeah. And I think Logan Thomas, that he holds enough clout that he can say those things. And it's I guess it's, it'd be out of Terry's character to say that. But, Logan, he probably like, hey, I'll say it. Shoot, why not? I'll put my neck out there. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. And making that switch, sometimes players don't like that stuff, even though they're trying to fight for it, but they can't determine where the ball goes. And I was talking about, if you look at Carson's stats, he throws to tight ends more often. Yeah. The firepower on this team is at wide receiver. You got to get a quarterback that's used to throwing it to those guys. And you see Sam Howells was able to do it. He brings a spark. He brings a funk and a spunk to it. So both of those things, I think that's why people were a little bit more fired up. They're excited to see this young guy play, because you'll see what guys do in practice. And nobody ever sees it. If they're third string, if they're practice squad guys, you're sitting there like, man, this dude can play, man. You got to try to get him out there, but finally you get to see him, take the curtain off and see what Sam Howell can do. And then you're like, oh, so they did have somebody there. And I think that was the big difference. You get a new guy, he got some energy to him, and he does something special on the practice field, and he was finally translating it to the game field.
Yeah. Of course, earlier, or just a few days ago, friend of the show and probably maybe like my 162nd best friend, Sam Fortier, released an article talking about how the players are kind of fed up with Scott Turner's offense. Have you been in a situation like that before? And what does that do to a locker room? Like, are they openly talking about it all the time? Like, why isn't Scott getting me the ball?
Well, it's not. It isn't necessarily. I can't speak for this locker room, but you're not always saying like, why aren't they throwing it to me? But sometimes you'll hear a play call. You might be looking at each other like, all right, here you go. But there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, you could go and try to complain and be, oh man, why are you doing this? But then that just causes a whole other level of turmoil.
Or you could do what Logan Thomas did and have his wife tweet out something about you guys see that? Logan Thomas's wife was like, why aren't they getting the ball to these playmakers or something?
Yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't see that.
I didn't know about it.
You've seen some wives tweet some stuff and start some Twitter beef. But when you kind of know how people call plays, and in your gut, you're like, this certain stuff works. Why are you not calling this? Or why are you not sticking to this thing? Right? You go down there, you're like, hey, run these plays, do this. And I don't know if I'm not sure if Scott went back down to the sideline or if he's back up in the booth. I remember he made that switch.
That's the reason why he went up to the booth. So he's like, I don't want to get yelled at.
See, that's the other thing, man. Like, if you're up in the booth, you're like a whole phone call away where it's like, hey, can you call something else? But if you're on the sideline, you come off and you're like, yo, like, nah, that ain't working. Throw it over here, do this. And it's more, interaction. So I've given myself a pet project that I'm going to, especially these kids go back to school tomorrow. I'll be able to look at some game tape and just kind of see how the play calling looks. Because there was just too many times this year where things felt disjointed, right? You'd have a really good drive doing one thing, and then the next drive, you go do something else. And it's like, why are you doing this?
Against the Browns, they had the best drive of the season before the half. And then never again.
But that happened so many times.
Yeah.
That happened. I can't name all the game, but this happened plenty of times this season where you're like, that was a really good drive that they did X, Y, and Z. And then the next drive, they're in a completely different personnel package, and they're trying to, let's say they run power. They're trying to power the ball on teams, and you're like, that didn't work the first three drives. The fourth and fifth drive, you passed it. Do that again. Sometimes you're just trying to force a hand, or you're just, I don't know. I'm gonna watch the tape. That way I can at least say, okay, I see what you were doing. But you could tell it was some disjointed, and people weren't really on board with what was going on.
Yeah, you're 100% right about that. There were some whispers going around. But that being said, I think yesterday the Commanders proved that they are, in fact, America's team. And the reason for that is they had the replacements come in and they won handedly. They were able to stifle this playoff team, be able to strangle them until the last breath. So that being said, talk to me about some of these guys that Chris Paul getting called up, Potato, getting brought. I know that's not how you spell his name, but I think we all know who I'm talking about. These guys being brought up and absolutely killing it in that game yesterday. You yourself coming like you played special teams, you wore the hard hat, you worked your butt off to be able to get your opportunities. Talk to me about that game for those guys.
Man, you're walking out there and knowing that, one, this is your chance to get some game reps and to get evaluated in these situations. I mean, you've sat on the practice squad, or you've been on the bench the whole year, and you're frustrated. You really want to go out there and play. So now you just go out there and let them hang, man. Just let them hang and go ball. Just go do what you do best. And this is an evaluation process for all those guys. I mean, Chris Paul, the team can now look at it and say, well, maybe we can throw him in the lineup and we don't necessarily need to have X and X player. Maybe we can shuffle the line around. It make their offseason a little bit easier to upgrade the O-line. I think that's a position, the whole entire thing, you need to really reevaluate what you're going to do there and get some good, solid players in there. And Chris Paul is definitely going to throw his name in the mix, especially you show up against some top-tier defensive line. I mean, Dorrance Armstrong or Digazua. I mean, you got some good players you're going up against. And to put up a good performance, that's ain't gonna do nothing but put a little tip in your cap. So that's something that's big. You want to make plays when you get those opportunities. I mean, you obviously that in this league you don't get to play for long, and you may only get a couple of snaps. I mean, and obviously think of DeMar Hamlin, like you don't know what he's gonna get to do later on if he's ever gonna get to touch the field again. So you have to take the most advantage of it because, frankly, if this was somebody's last time with Dallas, they at least have one last bit of tape that they get to go out to 31 other teams. And everybody else can say, hey, this guy can play. Let's bring him in to the fold and see if he can compete for a position. Maybe it's in another city. But I would ideally like to see Washington learn how to keep and develop their guys. But when you only get so many chances and you call and tell your mama, hey, I'm finna play on Sunday. You want to put out a good performance. You don't want to play bad when your mom's in the stands.
Yeah, and one of those guys is Jarrett Patterson, 17 carries, 78 yards, average 4.6 on the ground. That's somebody that definitely deserves a game beer for this. Sorry, Hall.
Yeah, no, he definitely had a great game. Or a good game. I'm not gonna say great game, but I just forgot my question. Hold on.
I'll fill in until you remember it. Go. I mean, like for Patterson, you got to think like, okay, what are they going to do at the running back position? Obviously, Brian Robinson's probably going to be the lead dog. And then, I'm not sure what AG's contract status is, but they may be saying, okay, maybe we can roll with Patterson and not have to use AG as much. So those different type of jockeying for position happens right here. I mean, hey, when I came in, I remember there was 2 draft picks. It was Malcolm Kelly and Devin Thomas.
Dude,
and they were second-round picks.
Yep.
And I was a 26-year-old rookie that was off a practice squad. Nobody knew who the hell I was. I didn't care. I didn't care about draft stats. I didn't care where they came from. I wanted to play. And I knew what I had to do to make it happen. And I was able to make a connection with the quarterback. And, that's the rest is history. So
Devin Thomas, man, what a good looking dude. I remember his him coming out of Michigan State. His vertical jump was something like 27 inches or something like that. And I was like, this guy's got everything. He's got great speed. He's got a great body, good looks, and he jumps 27 inches. All right, go ahead, Devin Thomas.
Now, to segue from that, you mentioned how you got to have a great rapport with the quarterback, and the quarterback that has a great rapport in the locker room with the guys just overall on the team is Taylor Heineke. And the elephant in the room is he's going to be a free agent this upcoming offseason. And a lot of the talk is, do you bring him back as maybe like a starter, or maybe a battle with Hal? Do you bring him back as maybe a backup, or is he going to be the fan favorite, always looking over his shoulder as a starter? Like Taylor Heineke's there, he's going to take my spot. So if you were the general manager Armstrong, would you bring back Taylor Heineke just because you know how he is with the fan base, the locker room, and just how he is on the field as a player as well?
Absolutely. He's a top priority, I would say. Just going to make sure that you have some stability in that locker room. There's no, especially in that quarterback room. You got a young quarterback in Sam Howells. Taylor can be a mentor. And, Taylor's going to prepare to be a starter, but he also can understand, hey, if I'm not the guy, no problem. I will support and nurture and help, tutor whoever is the guy. I think that you need to kind of get away from always bringing in a new name and a new person. That's difficult for somebody to come in and learn everybody and learn a whole new system. You got a couple of guys that have made some exciting plays. They've done some good things. It doesn't mean that you don't address a quarterback in the draft somewhere, but I wouldn't sit here and do it with pick number 16. Right. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't try to go and make some crazy trade to go up and get, CJ Stroud or whoever else. Like, forget that. There's more important needs. I think that if I'm the GM, I feel comfortable with at least Sam Howell and Taylor Heineke being two guys that can at least compete for the position and spend my resources trying to develop other positions around it, right? Because eventually, hey, maybe there will be a guy like a Trevor Lawrence or somebody that pops up down the line that you can say, hey, now's the time to get this guy. Or maybe Sam Howell develops into being, a top-notch, top-tier quarterback, and you don't have to worry about that. So I say bring Taylor Heineke back, try to have as much continuity as possible, maybe add a piece just to have a third arm. But, yeah, you definitely got to bring Heineke back.
Yeah, and I know that there's no Dallas fans that listen to this, but let's just rub some salt in the wound. What happened yesterday with that offense? What was going on with that? Dak Prescott looked horrible. This defense, shout out Kendall Fuller, by the way. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen, where he dropped that surefire pick six. Then the very next play comes back and gets a pick six.
Yeah, that's film study right there.
Yeah.
That little widen speed out. He had seen that so many times. Hell, you see Washington run it. I remember watching all of the, off-season and training camp stuff when they would show the receivers. The very first route they would run is that widen out, that little widen speed out. So he's seen that probably 10,000 times just this year. So he was able to jump on it quickly. And that's what good players do. I mean, that's why he's going to be able to be on the team and continue to hold down at least one of those cornerback positions. I think Dallas probably just came in laissez-faire thinking, Washington, there's nothing. There's a rookie start and we don't got to worry about it. And they probably were slightly disrespectful in their preparation when it came to playing this team. And the thing about this league, as you just saw, you can't do that. You can't do that. You will get punched in the mouth. Anybody can get hit with a scary left and get knocked out. But the good thing for them is that they still have games to play. But that they don't want to limp into the playoffs. That's not a good look to slide into the playoffs like that, because Tampa's probably thinking, hey, okay, these guys are primed for something now. And I mean, Tampa got them in week 1, and then now they see them kind of limping in off of a tough beat down up there in DC. Now maybe they're primed for the picking again. So I personally think it's just lack of preparation, lack of fire. You know what I mean? Just kind of assuming that Washington's going to lay down, and not in the rivalry game. Can't happen.
Yeah,
and that's very indicative between Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, with 15 carries between the both of them for 29 yards. Couldn't even get 30 yards on 15 carries. Good job on the defense. Now, Anthony, to wrap up this interview with you, just have a couple more questions for you. But from this season, who is the most improved player?
Ooh, most improved. Now, I want to say the most improved. Shucks. My first one that came to my mind is Jahan Dotson.
Okay.
And I think that's because his role kind of changed, and it just built as the season went. I mean, he jumped out early, had some quick touchdowns, got injured, and then came back and then just kind of kept it going. They put him in different situations. He became, he was catching the ball deep. He was running routes in the slot. And he's really showing like, okay, you got something with this guy now. You got a true 2 next to Terry, right? And it's going to be very helpful to have that skill on the outside, a guy that can get open against one-on-one coverage, because Terry is going to get double covered. He's going to get that attention from that safety. So Jahan, being a rookie coming in, definitely most improved, because, you don't know what he's going to be doing, but he really impressed me a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you in that breath. Now, my next question for you, Chase Young obviously has come back, and I thought that he was really critical to the success of the defense yesterday. What have you seen from Chase Young since his return from injury? I'm really intrigued. I'm impressed going into the offseason.
Man, I tell you, just him being able to get back out there, and now he's past whatever mental block that he was kind of dealing with, and it just takes to get some confidence. And he's a guy he plays with confidence. He plays with a lot of swag, and if he knows that he's that dude, he feels like he's that dude, it's going to be a whole lot of problem for some offenses. And it was great to see him and Montez Sweat working at the same side, and just imagine if you would have had John Allen in the middle. Like there's just a nasty defensive line that they're going to be able to line up, and just to know that he'll be healthy and have a healthy offseason, get even stronger, be able to make sure that knee's that much more secure and stable moving into the next season. I mean, it's not like they're back to that 2020, defense, even though they were, pretty dominant in the run. I think that there's more runway that they can improve upon. I still see some positions on the back end that they can improve upon that can take this defense to the next level. Chase Young he really impressed, and even though it was 3 games, I think he got to be part in. I would have loved him to see in about 5 games. I think he might be talking about playoffs right now if he was able to play in 5 of them, but I'd rather you be healthy and be able to play a much longer time frame rather than trying to force him out there early. So he's impressed me. He's impressed me by getting back out there and being effective.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. Been very impressed with Chase Young. Anthony, I can't thank you enough for joining us, brother. I hope you have a good night. I'm glad we were able to make this work. Before we get out of here, we'd just like to plug your social media handle and your podcast, the Believe Commanders podcast, just where fans can find you if they haven't found you yet.
Yeah, man, check it out. Believe in Commanders, all your streaming platforms. But you also got the Mr. Armstrong 13. That's on Twitter. That's probably where I'm gonna be hanging out talking about most of the football. I comment on some stuff on IG. It's rated Armstrong. But hey, if y'all want to get a shirt, man, go check out the
I was about to say, is that yours?
That's me, man. I put that together. It's something I've been wanting to do, and I'll say this.
That's nice.
This is my motivational thing, man. It says you gotta take action on some stuff, man.
Right.
You gotta take action. All that stuff, like, man, somebody need to just do it.
Mm-hmm.
This ain't a Nike thing, but you just gotta take action. Right? You just gotta take action, move on it. 13SP, that's the website, and I got some gear on there, and y'all check that out.
I appreciate you as always, Anthony. Make sure you guys go and check. I might get myself a Set the Standard t-shirt.
I was about to say.
Appreciate you, brother. Have a good night.
Appreciate
it,
it,
man.
All right, Anthony.
Thank you.
See you, man.
Man, I always love being able to break down games with Anthony, especially being able to hear his thoughts with Jahan Dotson in particular. That is key.
And dude, Anthony, especially, he knows the importance of this game. He's had some huge, he had at least a couple big games against the Cowboys. So that dude knows the importance of this rivalry.
Yeah, absolutely. You're wholeheartedly right. But
now we are wholeheartedly right, not half-heartedly.
Before we are joined by our next guest, I want to get these fan questions from you guys. This one is from the Colonel. What is the most likely offseason quarterback scenario, and does it include Kyle's evil twin, Derek Carr? Reed.
No. If you asked me a week ago, I would have said yes. I know that on Friday I said that, or Thursday, whatever day I don't even know what day it is right now. I said that there wasn't much that Sam Howell could do to really kind of change it. But I do think, just kind of seeing the way that the fan base reacted, I don't think that they're going to go all in on a veteran anymore. I don't think that they're going to trade up. I think if a quarterback falls to him, maybe at 16, they might take one. I don't think that they're going to want to pay Derek Carr $30 million next year. I think that they're probably more than likely it's going to be a Taylor Heineke, Sam Howell type situation. But there's a possibility they could bring in a young gun, but I don't think they're going the veteran route. I really don't.
Yeah, for me, it doesn't include Derek Carr. I think the way that this goes about, Colonel, with the fact of the ownership change coming, right? So this essentially is a valuation year for the new ownership, right? So you don't want to make those drastic kind of decisions where you're getting a veteran quarterback in here, and it's almost like the Dwayne Haskins scenario where you have maybe the new ownership comes in, wants their own coach, and you have a quarterback here is getting paid a lot. Well, not Dwayne wasn't getting paid a lot, but a lot of focus, a lot of attention is on them when maybe the new guy coming in doesn't want them, right? So for me, it's like, let's go with Sam Howell, possibly Taylor Heineke backing him up, maybe getting somebody in the draft or whatever have you for depth, because with this team, 70 different quarterbacks starting the NFL this year. So I do think there's a lot of value in the backup quarterback, being that if it's a good kind of personality trait, that's somebody you want to have. And Taylor does have that. He doesn't have the selfish mindset where he's going to try to stab Howell in the back. He wants what's best for him, and that's exactly what you want to have a backup. And so I'm cool with that quarterback kind of going that system, the competition of next year, and I think Sam Howell could easily win that. It's just with the ownership stake, it doesn't make sense to make a big move at quarterback with everything going on, because you'd rather give new ownership, new coaching staff to say, we tried it out with this guy, it didn't really work, but now you have a top 10 pick and you can go get a quarterback if you want. You're not tied to anybody, essentially.
No, yeah, you're actually going to be surprised at this answer. I would not want them to actually go after Carr or bring in like another one of those veterans, like a Jimmy G or something, maybe like a Geno Smith or someone like that. It has really nothing to do with it has like slightly to do, like small percentage to do with what happened with a Slam Hal yesterday, but it's mostly what
It's like 90%.
Kyle just. No. It's mostly what you just said, where it's like, and I've been thinking about this either way, but it's like I don't really want them to go out there and spend a bunch of draft capital or spend a bunch of money on a Derek Carr or a Jimmy G or whoever else you got to get a veteran quarterback in here, just to, like you said, maybe a year from now, if it doesn't work out, which there's a lot of history here of us doing that and they're not working out, and then the new owner comes in with the new GM, the new coach, and whatever else. Obviously, a new coach is always going to want to pick their quarterback to lead their team and their franchise. So I just don't want to be back on that QB carousel after being back on it again like a year later. So if it was more of like Dan Snyder wasn't selling the team, then I would be like, yeah, go after a veteran. This team is built for to win 10 plus games, get a playoff spot, and see what happens at the playoffs. But at this point, you got some young pieces already. Don't give up any draft capital. Keep drafting some young guys. Sign the young guys that you need to re-sign. And if Sam Howell goes out there and does his thing next year, then it's a plus. You got your guy going forward. See if you can do it in year 3. Or if he comes out and he looks like a second-year quarterback that hasn't only had one start in his career, then you're in a top 5, top 7, top 10 type of situation.
Or a Caleb Williams / Drake May, baby.
Exactly. Woo! So you get your quarterback then. So look, I've always had that thought in the back of my mind. It's just I was more of I don't want to waste the talent that's here or already here type of thing. So go out and get that guy that can lead this team. But like I said, Sam Howell did some good things yesterday, and if he can build on that in year 2, then I think that this team can go in the right direction.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Falker.
Everyone keeps saying you got to get the quarterback, right? You got to get the quarterback. You got to build around the quarterback. I think the other aspect of this is building a good enough team that wants
so that you can attract a quarterback.
Exactly, like the Broncos did with Peyton Manning, exactly like a Tampa Bay
they did with Russell Wilson.
Tampa Bay, exactly. And then even the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they didn't go down the veteran route, but they were able to plug in a rookie who fit what they wanted, and their team was so good to the point where it wasn't like he needed to be an offensive juggernaut. So that can always be the case, and that's why I think Rivera in this offseason, that's what their focus is going to be, is building up this team as much as possible so they could gift it off, and that way they'll be in the best position that they can be heading into 2 seasons from now. Now, the next question from the Colonel Hall. In your opinion, which, if any, of our primary coaching staff are at risk of being released?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the writing, not the writing on the wall, but there's been chatter about Scott Turner for a little bit now. And then, like we talked about earlier with the Sam Fortier article, where the 9 anonymous players came out and said they're not happy with the offense. Then you got Logan Thomas's wife, tweeting or Instagram or whatever she said.
Pretty sure it was Facebook, actually, by the way.
Yeah, I think it might have been MySpace or something like that.
Yeah, no, she goes on the.
It might have been Black Planet. She was on, but
it was World Star. She goes on. She goes on the Facebook groups a lot. And, no, I swear to God, that's where she's done it a few times.
Obviously, if it's going to be anybody, then it's more than likely going to be Scott Turner. But like Ron Rivera said, they're going to evaluate the coaching staff this upcoming weekend and into next week. So that probably means some changes to come in more than likely.
Yeah, and now we are joined by our next guest, uber fan of the Washington Commanders, a big supporter of our show, Mr. Hefe
and the greatest
Miles.
Artist of all time.
Yeah, you'll know him. You'll see some of his murals at FedEx Field walking up those ramps. And really quality artist that you guys should really go check out what he does on Instagram and everything. Jeff, how are you doing, brother?
Thank you. Y'all so kind, man. I'm doing good, man. It was a blessing to be able to do all those things for my favorite team and, have my family back home and be able to go see those things. So it's pretty cool.
That must be
is that a Sean Taylor or is that a Cam Curl?
Hey, Sean Taylor, I had to do it for the one time.
Look at that.
But actually, my girlfriend's sister got this for me for Christmas. So I was very,
Oh, yeah. That's a keeper.
That's a good one right there. Jeff.
Maybe you say you a keeper.
Jeff, we had a question from the Colonel. Which of any of our solidified coaching staff do you see possibly getting released from the team?
Oh, it's got to be Turner. If anybody, if you would have asked me at the beginning of the season, I would have said Del Rio, but he really turned things around. Scott Turner, I just think we need more. And every now and then we have games where we go up against good defenses, Eagles, Cowboys, and we do good, but at the end of the day, we need to be putting up 30 points a game. That would be nice, right?
Yeah.
but it has to be Scott. We just need more variety, you know.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, look at every single category offensively that I've provided every single week. Each one is 20th and below in offensively, right? And the data obviously supports that. And we could talk about excuses all day long, but the fact is, even the players are seeing it on an everyday basis. And it's one thing if the fans are just pointing blame and judgment, because that's easy to do. But the people that work with you day in and day out are saying there's something glaringly wrong, then there obviously is. But like for me, I'm gonna be careful how I say this, but basically, I'm not sure if Ron would make that change, because I feel like Ron's the type of person that him himself would walk away before he made that move. And so if I would say anybody would be released, I like the wording of that, like not fired or anything, but maybe Ron steps down in that sort of capacity and something has to, like Jack takes over or something like that. But I would see that before anything else. But look,
Can I say something kind of controversial? If we have to judge, which I am, Scott Turner, based off of the personnel he's had and the offense that he's running with what he has, I think we also have to take a look at the O-line coach and look at the talent that he has and what he's putting out there. And it's just not getting it done.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were rated number 6 in 2021, according to PFF. This season, I don't even know what they were, but they weren't high. Let's put it that way.
Right.
But yeah, I would completely agree with obviously with Turner. And it's weird because like Scott Turner I see why people say that he has a good mind for football. Like everybody, anytime you hear any of these NFL people talk about him, they all say like this guy, he's very creative, he's very smart, and I think sometimes he outdoes himself. But like look back to when we beat the undefeated Eagles team. That was like the best offensive play calling game I think I've seen in my entire time as a Washington fan. He did a masterful job. He knew what he was doing. He stuck to the game plan. He executed the game plan, and he did a fantastic job. But other than that, there was too many times where it was just like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? What is going on? You have so much talent. Utilize exactly. Why are we running the ball right now? Why are we throwing right now when Brian Robinson is heating up? What's going on? Like
the same thing happened yesterday where the offense was doing pretty well and he runs the end around that starts at the second and 14. You know, it's the same old thing where like you're not learning what's the definition of insanity, right? It's doing the same thing over and over again.
It's funny, like
results.
Whenever Rodgers got that jet sweep or whenever they did that pitch to Curtis Samuel, like as a fan sitting at home and I'm just watching that play as they're lining up and everyone's getting in motion, I'm literally on my couch calling the play out, and then they run it. And I'm like, if I'm a fan sitting at home and I can realize that, what do you think an NFL player that's been doing this their whole life can see? You know what I'm saying? So that's just like, that just goes to where like Scott Turner's like, sometimes you're creative, but sometimes, like you said, it's kind of like you kind of outthink yourself, and then you take yourself out of like the chains and you just mess yourself up.
Right. Now, Jeff, this next question we have is from Cole's Mullet on Twitter. He actually sent me this 2 days ago. He says, general question as we head home from the Caps game. The energy and the experience of a Caps game is so much better than a Commanders game. Why is that? Is the stadium in D.C. a must, or is it the fact that they don't lose every year? Even the opposing fans know to not talk their crap. I will say it was nice going to a home game with the team losing without having to worry about everybody you walk by talking their crap. What do you think, Jeff?
There are a bunch of different factors into this. One, quality of stadium. That does have something to do with it. The main one, or the main two, you have a guaranteed Hall of Famer that you're going to see right now in Ovechkin. There's respect due to there, you know. You have a team that just won the championship a couple years ago. So that plays a big factor too. Washington hasn't won since I've been alive. So it's very hard to keep that same energy. You know, if we would have won 2, 3, 5, even 5 years ago, I feel like the atmosphere would be a little different. But it's a mindset of, oh man, what are we in for today? When a lot of fans go in there and then railings start falling, pipes start bursting, and it's like, all right, what is happening here? You know, so I think it's an all-together thing, but I think those are the main three things.
For me, this is I'm gonna try to be as quick as possible with this, Cole. But basically, the way that I come about it is we have to understand that a lot of people become fans based on winning, right? And one of the reasons being only one team in this area does not have attendance issues, and that being the Caps. The Caps are one of the longest winning, more sustainable winning scoring teams you can date back to early 2000s. So you can see how they still have the young, medium, and old influence. Whereas these other teams, where the Wizards, the Nats, and Washington, the Commanders, have not done well, and people around my age. And that's where you see the drop off. Because there was no winning, there was nothing to cling to. So that's why it's almost like Chinese society in a way, where it's like a pyramid aspect, where you have the older is what you have the grand variation of, but as you get to the younger base, it's dwindles and dwindles down. That's what the fan base is for most of these three teams. The Caps, the only difference because of winning, and they were able to do that during the time that kids my age were growing up and could cling to. So ultimately, that's what it comes down to. I know that the stadium and all that goes into it, but I guarantee you if they were winning games, they'd be filling up that stadium. If they were going to the playoffs every year like the Steelers or Ravens, they'd be filling up that stadium.
Also, when it comes to like the Nats and stuff, just the fact that so many people grew up around here without the Nationals and became were Orioles fans their entire life. The Nationals, just even though they won the World Series not too long ago, which was the greatest sporting moment of my life, they've never had good attendance. They just never have. But yeah, the Caps, I mean, like you said, they're consistently in it. They're always in the playoffs. They won Stanley Cup not long ago. They have a surefire Hall of Famer who's one of the greatest players of all time, and Alex Ovechkin starting to wind down his career and still playing at a high level. And it's just people respect the Capitals right now. The Commanders, Wizards, even the Nats, because they're in a rebuild. Nobody really has that much respect for any of these teams.
Well, obviously the Nats have like the short success so far, but like I'm just talking about the
still,
whole.
I mean, right now they're in a rebuild. Like
right. Well,
they
even
didn't have
before
attendance
that,
even when they were winning.
They had a passionate base, but it wasn't like this is a homegrown passionate. Like there was a short stint, and that's when it kind of went in fruition. But now let's move on to our next question. This is from the Discord.
Quick.
What's up?
I have one more point.
All right.
One more point about that, if that's okay.
Yeah.
They don't even have to win a championship, because if you remember the Hibachi Agent Zero, it was just entertaining.
Yeah.
It was just entertaining. 100%. They could not get past the first round of the playoffs, but you knew you were going to see a show. You know you were going to see heart, you were going to see effort, and you're going to see some flashy plays, some buzzer beaters maybe. So I think it was just entertaining.
Yeah, that's 100% true. Gilbert Arenas hit so many buzzer beaters during that time frame. He was so good.
Absolutely. Right. Now, this question is from Tim Towner. I'm going to go to you, Jeff. Who has worse grooming habits, Sam Howell or Mike Reed? Don't answer that. We're just kidding. He just.
Oh, no, I was about to be like maybe me or like Chris D'Elia or something.
Now, his question is, will Washington's front office be restrained in free agency this offseason with potential sale in the future? If so, how does that impact Deron Payne, tag and trade for picks, or re-sign for a deal similar to what John Allen got?
I think it's very. I would be surprised if we got a new owner and he just blew up the entire thing. I'd be very surprised about that on the first year. I would say maybe Ron and company gets another year if we keep Scott Turner. That's what I would think. I think it's very weird if Basil comes in and like, all right, Ron fired, Del Rio fired, everybody's fired, and then we're starting over. I don't think it's going to happen like that. So not likely this year, at least for me.
I wouldn't say restrained necessarily, but I do think that they'll be not as free as possible. And I do think that they're going to retain Deron, especially with the tag, because maybe it does require picks back, because the whole objective here is to be able to give new ownership with the best possible slate that looks appealing to them, that they could bring somebody in here to change and to actually get over their next step. So I could definitely see them either bringing Deron back with a big contract, because it does make your team overall better, which is what their goal is, or by tagging him, possibly trading and getting some hefty picks like Logan Paulson thought we'd be able to. Can I go to the next question, guys? Or you want to elaborate?
Yeah, no, that's...
Hall, this next question is from Brandon Reinbold. What grade would you give Sam Howell's performance going against the Cowboys starters? And who's your top candidates to replace Scott Turner as OC/play caller if fired?
I'd probably give him probably like a B+. Just because obviously he threw the pick in the red zone, but at the same time it's your first start, so I'm not going to really ding you that much for that. But ball security is job security, as I always say in the NFL, so clean that up a little bit. But yeah, overall, he played a pretty solid game. He was showed his athleticism like he did in college, running the ball. He trucked Trayvon Diggs, so that's always a plus in my book.
Deserves game beers for
that. Yeah. So yeah, overall 11 for 19, just under 170 yards, 169 yards. So got the ball to Terry, so that's always another check in my book. So yeah,
And
just solid B plus overall. And as far as OCs go, I feel like a great quarterback for maybe like a Sam Howell type of guy would be Frank Reich, but I know he's probably going to have other job offers and maybe even like head coaching gigs might come up for him as well. But he's really like the only offensive coordinator off the top of my head I can really like think of. Maybe like a college guy that's coming up in the ranks
I got somebody for
has some promise. But yeah.
Sean McVay, without a doubt, off bat.
Well,
Bam, if that
obviously.
happens, obviously, he's going to get a head coaching job. But I'm just saying, you looking at it from a futuristic standpoint, if Rivera wants to walk away without Joe Del Rio taking over, that would be
You said
just
who?
a slam dunk.
By the way, Sean McVay leaving the Rams after one losing season is the most millennial shit I've ever heard in my life.
No, 100%. He's doing exactly what Urban Meyer did in college. But that being said, what grade would I give Sam Howell? I would give him an A. And the reason why going into that game, my expectations were not high. I just wanted to see him execute the offense. He was able to do that. And obviously he did have the pick in the end zone, but he's a rookie in his first game starting, and he threw into triple coverage. That is bad. But that being said, that's something he can work on. That's something good, because the worst thing you'd want to have happen, Sam Howell come in and make it look easy, and then he's like, I have nothing to work on, everything's straight. He still got something to work on, so it's a plus in my book. I think it's an A. He executed the offense, used his legs when he needed to. He didn't abandon the pocket at all times. He got the ball in his playmaker's hands, and then he chucked the ball to Terry in stride to be able to beat that corner. That was absolutely beautiful. For me, it's an A. I think Sam Howell could have performed as good as he possibly could. Given the circumstances permitting, that they still wanted to run the football heavily. They ran over 30 times, and he still overhead 150 yards, a touchdown. So I think an A for me. What about you, Jeff?
I'm going to agree with Hall on this one. I think B plus, maybe an A minus. I think if that was a bad interception, but like you said, he was a rookie. Honestly, this is not fair to Howell at all.
It's not.
But if Dotson catches that bomb,
I know.
If Terry got that PI or caught that ball at the end zone for a second touchdown,
he was
A plus.
Yeah,
that's not fair to Howell, but like that changes it,
Yeah.
But I'm gonna stick with B plus just because any quarterback for us can clearly do good against a good team. Any given Sunday, Heineke can beat the Eagles. Josh Johnson beat the Jaguars.
Right.
I want to see a little bit more. I'm not going to say give him 100%. He did great yet. As of offensive coordinators, I'm going to be honest. I don't know a lot of offensive coordinators besides our own or in our division right now. But I can go off offenses. Whoever is making the Seahawks look that good.
Yeah.
I'm interested. Whoever's making the Bengals offense, and I say the Bengals because they do throwing and they do running equally. And for a team that doesn't know which way they're going to go yet, I would love to see Bengals offensive coordinator with us, with Brian Robinson, and then all the offensive weapons we have. I would argue that we have maybe not as good as weapons, but we have just as many weapons. We have the running back. We have 3 good wide receivers. Tight end's a little iffy, but I would see who is ever running that Bengals offense and bring them in.
Yeah, so if the future aspect is what's concerning for Sean in LA, then the future is bright over here in DC, my friend. You know that all too well, Sean. Come back home, man. Come back home.
You guys touched on how, so I won't touch it. I'll just throw an offensive coordinator idea name in the cap. And it's unlikely because I think this guy ultimately is going to take over. He's a quarterback coach right now. I think he's ultimately going to take over for his offensive coordinator because his offensive coordinator is more than likely going to be a head coach next year. Ken Dorsey, I think, is going to end up being a head coach from the Buffalo Bills. I think Joe Brady, former LSU offensive coordinator.
My guy. I like
Joe Brady. And then he went to the Panthers. That's another connection right there. And kind of flamed out because they had a bad team. But he's supposed to be taking over. He's supposed to be next in line to kind of take over the Bills offense. But if there's a way you can just pluck him out of there and say, hey, you're quarterback's coach right now, just come on over here. And you did a good job with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. We got Terry McLaurin. We have Jahan Dotson. We have all these different weapons. Why don't you come on over here and teach us Sam Howell a thing or two about Joe Burrow and Josh Allen? Come here.
Love the idea of that, dude. It really could be cool to see something like that. This next question from Big Tony Shivers. Thoughts on Khaleke Hudson's play? He was consistent versus Dallas. Feel like he should have a shot before Mayo and Bostic earlier in the season. I think Hudson was in concussion protocol for some time, and he was. Khaleke Hudson looked great yesterday, and one of the reasons I say that is he didn't stand out in a bad way. Right, and collectively as a defense, they did a very good job. I mean, they only gave up 2.7 on the ground to Tony Pollard, who has been absolutely disgusting on the ground this year, who has more yardage than Ezekiel Elliott and less carries. So his average is absolutely gross, and they held him to 2.7. Yes, obviously they went in slow, but Khaleke Hudson, I think, helping being tied for league in tackles with Derek Forrest and then Danny Johnson, I think that he had a great game, and that kind of gives you hope for the future in that middle linebacker spot, because a lot of people are talking about depth. Well, looking like Khaleke Hudson is somebody you could plug in there and not have to worry about, in my personal opinion. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, Khaleke Hudson, man, he did well, and he's somebody. First of all, let me just say, I think John Bostic is getting way more hate than he deserves this year. I think John Bostic did fine for a lot of this year. I think he was solid. I could totally see why they brought him back. I know we talked about that, Kyle, but Khaleke Hudson, he's somebody. He's got it all, right? He set the collegiate record for tackles for a loss in a single game when he was at Michigan. He's bulked up, so he's becoming more of a linebacker instead of a safety hybrid. And he's somebody that I would like to see because it's a passing league, and anybody like that who's a former safety, you can totally help in that aspect. So I love Khaleke Hudson, and I think that I would love to see him. But and by the way, also shout out Derek Forrest. That final hit of the game, final hit of the season was a bomb. The dude is just
He's a man.
We didn't even get to see a replay of it because the game ended.
Hog. Now, this next question is from Tony Franchise. Jeff, I want to get your, my bad, Orange Crush. I want to get your opinion on this before we move on. How well do you think Howell did yesterday compared to any preseason action?
Real quick, I'm going to get to that one, but then the Khaleke Hudson one did great yesterday. Need to see more from you. He's been in the league. 4 years? Yeah. He should have locked down that position if he was that good. And he is a great athlete. I'm not taking that away from him. But he should have locked down that role. He should have had more games like this over the seasons.
Completely.
But how Sam Howell do and what now? Sorry.
Compared to the preseason, what you saw him preseason.
His decision making was so much better. I know you were really afraid of him just taking off and running. He ran when he needed to. He stayed in the pocket when he needed to. He went through all his reads. I think I saw tremendous growth in Sam Howell. Let's see how he does, next year.
Yep, I'm right there with you, dude. I'm right there with you. I think that he did great, based on where his preseason action. And I think the one glaring difference there, because in preseason, he would break the huddle and it would be the wrong thing, right? Where I think the one glaring part, I think, of his progression was in that game, he tries to motion Armani Rogers, I think it was. And Armani doesn't move. He looks confused. And the play clock's running down. And he smartly turns around, takes the timeout. He doesn't try to fit a square peg into a round hole. He says, this isn't going to work. The play's not going to work. The smart thing is to take the timeout and let's move on. And for me, that is a sign of the progression from training camp to now. This is why you have to sit to learn that maturation process of the quarterback position and understand that it's not just about you. It's about getting everyone in position so the play can be successful. And that's what you saw in that one play from yesterday that I saw. And that is a direct representation of his progress.
Yeah, I think he was very similar to how he was in the preseason, and that's saying something because again, in the preseason, we're he's facing third stringers, a bunch of guys who aren't going to make the roster, but you still saw the same pocket moxie. He does a very good job in the pocket and kind of navigating around it. I know there was a couple broken plays, but he tends to feel pressure well and go through his progressions very fast, and plus that quick release and thrown from different arm angles kind of helps with his size. So I think those are very good things that you can definitely build off of, and I'd say it was pretty much what we saw in the preseason.
Yeah, but now this question from Tony Franchise. Thank you, Tony. Hall, what do you think about going into the season with Jimmy G and Howell at quarterback?
Yeah, we kind of touched on that earlier. I was a big proponent of get a guy in here that can win games, a veteran guy that can take the talent that we have now and take him over over the top, get us to the playoffs, be in the mix for the division and whatnot. And like I said, get into the playoffs, see what happens, maybe even win a playoff game. But after like sitting back and really thinking on it, seeing what Sam Howell did, and again, only 19 passes isn't enough to be like, oh, he's definitely going to be the guy. But at this point, I'd feel more comfortable with bringing back Taylor Heineke for like a cheap deal as maybe the backup, or have him and Sam Howell compete for the job going into next year. Use obviously they're going to cut Carson Wentz, is going to free up a whole bunch of cap space. So re-sign the guys that you're able to re-sign. Maybe like a guy like Deron Payne. Maybe you start talking to a guy like Cam Curl, try to get something worked out with him, and go out. Hopefully, upgrade the offensive coordinator. Get some help on the offensive line, maybe through free agency, and just like we talked about earlier, just kind of build the team out to the point where if Sam Howell doesn't work out, you either have a top 5 to 10 pick, you can draft a quarterback in 24, and he's on a team that is already insulated enough for him to succeed, or Sam Howell is the guy, he's still on his rookie deal, and you can continue building the team out and insulate him even more. So I just think that 2023 is a win-win, no matter how you look at it, if you bring back Taylor Heineke and let Sam Howell and him compete.
Yeah, and look, that's a great question, but no, absolutely not. One of the issues with the quarterback position the past 20 years has been injury concerns, right? And Jimmy G has injury concerns, and that is not somebody you want to bring in the building when you have to depend on. The one big question about Heineke coming in with his career coming into last season was, can he stay healthy? Prove that. That is somebody you want to have in here. I look, Jimmy G would be expensive. He's a good quarterback, but he would be more of a problem if you're worried about distractions and stuff of being behind Howell in that sense. And I don't think that Jimmy Garoppolo would win it over Howell. He'd be new to this system, and he would take some regressing, in my personal opinion. So I wouldn't be too concerned about Jimmy
I
G,
will
to be
say
perfectly honest.
they're talking about maybe like letting go of Scott Turner. So I
That's my
don't.
point.
Yeah, so like thinking about that, like I mean, I guess you could get an offensive coordinator and kind of build the offense around whoever the quarterback is, but Taylor Heineke, obviously he knows Scott Turner's offense like the back of his hand. Sam Howell just learned the offense in his rookie year, so would Taylor Heineke be able to adapt to a new offense going outside of Scott
I said the
Turner's?
same thing, dude.
And would Sam Howell be able to learn another offense in his second year after learning the
Right.
first offense? So you got to also think that when you're looking at like maybe Jay should go after a veteran quarterback. Me personally, after like, I would probably still go Taylor Heineke, Howell route, but that is something to consider when you're looking down the road for next year.
That is a great, great point. One that I brought up when somebody asked if I thought Taylor would be successful in another team is Taylor's only knows this system, really. That's all he's followed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Craziest response was, it's not Scott's system. Well, whose system is it, dude? But to wrap this up, I only have one last thing, boys. Jeff, I want to, Hall, it's the end of the season. If you anything you wanted to say about the season, kind of just a send off in a way of what you witnessed this season, what you were able to be a part of.
I'll let Hall go first.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it'll kind of be quick. Obviously it was a overall disappointing season because we had high aspirations for this team going into the season, just based off the talent that was already on the roster. Obviously we knew quarterback was going to be the big question, and the defense was kind of shaky in the beginning. Would like to see them get off to a better start. Over the past couple of years, they've had a rough couple first half of the season. Then they turn it around in the middle of the season, and then kind of fade out towards the end of the season. And I think that's because they put so much into the middle of the season trying to get back right that they don't have enough juice down the stretch. So they kind of fall off. But yeah, just a fun season like always. I guess technically you could say they improved. They had 8 wins this year. But like I said, overall just disappointing. Would like to see them get into the playoffs, especially with a weaker NFC like it is right now. But again, I like a lot of the young pieces that are here. I like where they're going as far as like overall talent, overall culture of the team, overall just on the field product. And I just think that just like a lot of teams in the NFL, but this one especially, if they can get the quarterback position locked up, then the sky's the limit for this team. And I really, really do truly believe that because, like I said, we have the talent on both sides of the ball. It's just about that most important position on the field. And, yeah, hopefully 2023 is the year that we finally figure that out.
I agree
And
with you.
I will say, I don't know if y'all remember, but I was very pessimistic during preseason. I did not see the changes I needed to see. I thought we were going to be exactly the same. And to be fair, we've finished pretty similar to where we were. But what I will say is this team showed me things I did not expect to see. Uh, Assuring our safety positions. I did not expect that to happen. Forrest and Curl back there together just works, you know. This offensive line, interior lineman getting above 10 sacks is crazy, you know. We have weapons, fellas. Like, when was the last time we had multiple weapons at multiple positions?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. You know, I have nightmares about, you know, having nothing more than Terrell Pryor in our offensive weaponry, you know. And all of that put together, I will say, with all my pessimism before the season, I will say that I am the least worried that I have been over the past couple of years. I see certain things that need to change. I see a defense that can show out when healthy, obviously. I see depth pieces. I think the cornerbacks did pretty good in this last game against Dallas. Need some work, but I think the linebackers, which we were all so worried about, that depth could have been a lot worse. Bostic showed up, as y'all said before. Mayo did decently. Even, you know, the backup quarterbacks, where Heineke came in and technically was a backup. We didn't expect him to win 5 games, but he did. You know, nobody expected Howell to beat Cowboys, but he did. So I don't know what the future holds in the next season, whether that be Garoppolo, a rookie, Carr, anybody. But I will say this is the least worried I've been over the past 3 or 4 years, at least. So yeah,
I agree with you. This has been you can say easily that it was disappointing. Didn't end the way you wanted to. You wanted to be able to get the playoff win to show the progress. But that being said, you know, I saw the progress early on. To see where they are now, I've always said this: when you start a season, you don't end as the same team. You always morph and you have to gel. That being said, I just want to say thank you, Terry McLaurin, Jonathan Allen, Taylor Heineke, Curtis Samuel. Tyler Larson, like we know, we talked to him privately. He worked his butt off to get back here, and he worked his butt off to get back here as soon as he possibly can. And he did that after Keith Ishmael got plucked by the San Francisco 49ers right after right before Chase Roullier got hurt. So we were in a bad way. And Tyler Larson, also huge thank you to him for his hard work to get back and to help this team to win football games, to really show and to do some things to show the progress of this team. Because I think the 7-5-1, as much as it was a catastrophe of letting it slip through your fingers, it was evidence of showing the progress of this team. Being up with a couple games to go is not something that we are used to, but no excuses with that being said. But also thank you to Jamin Davis, a dude who constantly met ridicule and criticism, and he really showed out this season. He took a huge step forward. He continues to work hard, so thank you to Jamin. And then Cameron Curl. You know, I said the tweet back then where everyone was talking crazy about this team. They were talking crazy about this defense. Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, they were dinosaurs. And I said, look, man, let Bam Bam Cam come back to work and let him show you why, and let him prove it to you that this is a really good defense. And he came back and he did that. He was instrumental in this team's being able to come back in the season and make something worth it of it, because they were in a bad way. And then Derek Forrest, a huge thank you to. The dude, I mean, the ball skills of Derek Forrest really did help this team in so many different ways in crucial situations. He was from start to finish. So thank you to all of you guys, and thank you to Coach Rivera, obviously, just given the job that he's had to go through. Radio host demanding that he step down halfway through the season. It's all kind of ridiculous that this is all a thing. And also thank you to Ryan Kerrigan for taking the job and helping these defensive line get back to normalcy.
Big difference.
Yeah, get back to being elite. And then if I could pick one game that could describe it in a emblematic of what this season was, I would say it was Tennessee, where they get down, they throw the ball to get back in it, they bring life and excitement, and then coming up to the end of it, you think they have a very good chance to be able to get the touchdown to win the game, and they turn it over. And so if there was one game I could pick that was emblematic of Washington's season this season, it was that. And but that being said, thank you to the Washington Commanders, Jeremy Reeves, all those guys. They battled their ass off this season, and they fought. You cannot say they gave up at all, ever. They fought their asses off, and they truly did in every game. And I think that is shown in the respect of their opponents and stuff like that. I really did appreciate their work this season. They never gave up, man. They never got blown out, really. Every game was somewhat close, even the ones that were far apart. But it wasn't like they got the doors blown off them, so to speak. I guess you could say the San Francisco 49ers, but there's stuff to be said for that, right? But for me, thank you guys. I appreciate everyone for this show. Thank you, Jeff. You support us in the Discord. You help us with fan questions all the time and watching our show and giving us feedback. Really do appreciate you guys, all the fans out there that showed up this season and helped this team get there. It was a chaotic one, to say the least, but hopefully this last game is kind of showing you what the future holds for this franchise, and hopefully we get released from this thing, whatever it is. All right, everybody. I really do appreciate everyone in your help this season, your support. It really was a lot of fun. Andy Burrows, the UK boys, being able to meet them for the first time, man, it was just an awesome, awesome season, one that I will never forget. To be perfectly honest with you, we got to interview John Allen, Logan Thomas, Kendall Fuller, who picked 6 yesterday. We really didn't even talk about it. What an awesome dude. Everyone, I appreciate you guys. It was a good season. We'll see you again on Thursday. Don't forget about it. Jeff, I appreciate you, brother. Before we get out of here, would you just like to plug your social media handle, just in case anybody watching hasn't followed you yet and would like to?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at jefe.miles. That's jefe.miles. Post a lot of artwork. I've been doing a lot of Commanders work recently with the mural and anything. If y'all want to go see the murals and the banners, they're actually outside the stadium, so anybody can go see them. The Chase Young, Antonio Gibson, and the Hogs, which just got hung up a couple weeks ago. You can go see them. The actual mural, you will have to be inside the stadium to see that one. It's in Ramp G if anybody wants to go see it. It's pretty awesome. Real quick, it's the sounds of DMV. So it's basically Marvin Gaye, Wale, Duke Ellington, and Chuck Brown, all icons that came from this area. So definitely check that out. And thank y'all. This is, I wish Reed was still on here, but I want to thank y'all. This is the first time I've had all 3 of y'all on here and giving us somewhere to talk about football, release our frustrations, talk about our plans, because we're not coordinators. Nobody's going to hear us, but you give us that outlet, and we appreciate that coming from everybody in the Discord. So salute to y'all, and follow me for more art and more Commanders content.
Appreciate you, brother. Wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. Just to let you know, Reed's power went out, so his internet went out at the same time. So he says. You know how Reed is. Maybe Nick Bosa posted a new Instagram story. You don't know. Anything's possible.
To like it, unlike it, like it again, unlike it.
He's got so many burners to have to like that picture on now, following Nick Bosa, which is an inside joke. All right, everybody. I really do appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart, everything you guys have done and supported us this season. We'll see you guys on Thursday. Looking for brighter pastures, looking forward, playoff games. We're everything you need. We got you here. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
The off season begins. I'm Hall.
All right, everybody. We'll see you then. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!